We live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
A shooter opened fire at a major food festival in the U.S. state of California, with police announcing at least 4 persons killed and multiple others wounded.
China throws its backing behind Hong Kong's beleaguered leader and police, but said violent protesters must be swiftly punished following another weekend of running street battles in the financial hub.
President Duterte personally assured assistance to the residents of Batanes during a visit there a day after 2 moderate earthquakes jolted the province, killing at least 8 people and injuring at least 63 others.
And Edmonton City raises INC flag, lights up bridge in recognition of the church's 105th anniversary.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. A shooter opened fire at a major food festival in the U.S. state of California, with police announcing at least 4 persons killed, multiple others wounded. Gilroy, California Chief of Police Scott Smithy, spoke at the press conference and said that officers confronted and shot dead the suspect. Take a look.
There were reports of shooting on the north side of the Garlic Festival area. Officers were in that area and engaged the suspect in less than a minute. The suspect was shot and killed. It appears as if though they had come into the festival via the creek which borders a parking area, and they used some sort of a tool to cut through the fence to be able to gain access through the secure fence line. We have 1 suspect we know that is down. We have some witnesses reporting that there may have been a second suspect, but we don't know if that suspect was engaged in any shooting or whether they may have been in some sort of a support role for the person that we have accounted for. We have at least 15 people injured. We have 4 fatalities that we know of, including the suspect.
Now, police said the dead included a 6-year-old named Steven Luciano Romero of San Jose, California. Footage on NBC showed people running as shots rang out at the Gilroy Garlic Festival that is 30 miles southeast of San Jose. It is one of the largest food festivals in the country. A witness named Julissa Contreras told NBC a white man in his 30s armed with a rifle opened fire indiscriminately. The San Francisco Division of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives said on Twitter that it was responding to the scene of a reported shooting at the Gilroy Garlic Festival. The Mercury News reported that the shooting took place as the festival was winding down.
And when I was at the corn booth, 2 shots rang out first, and at the same time the music started for the concert, so I thought it was like a opening act for the concert. But after a few seconds there was so many shots, and I saw people falling down, kids falling down. I had to jump over 3 of the kids. 1 bullet passed me very closely and it hit our friend's booth, her chair, and the shrapnel got into her leg also, so she is injured there.
So I want to say there was at least 20 people in the booth, and our booth manager, when we heard the shots, and he knew something was wrong, and he just yelled out to everyone, just duck down, and we all just ducked, and then till people started directing and telling us leave and get out of there.
Police said the gunman used a rifle and gained entry into the Gilroy Garlic Festival by cutting through a fence to avoid tight security, including metal detectors. The police chief also said the motive behind the killings remained unclear. Founded in 1979, the festival revolves around the celebrated crop of the region, featuring garlic-inspired foods, drink, live entertainment, and cooking competitions. It's hosted by volunteers and describes itself as the world's greatest summer food festival. A few hours before the shooting, festival goers were still showing up by the busload, milling around Christmas Hill Park under a hot sun and amid the scent of garlic. Parents were even feeding their toddlers bites of garlic ice cream as families were lounging under the shade of the trees, fanning themselves in the heat. Women were dancing to live music while others munched on garlic fries, pasta, bread, and shrimps. Shootings are a frequent occurrence in the United States, but despite the scale of the gun violence problem in the country, efforts to address it legislatively have long been largely deadlocked at the federal level.
Now the dead include 6-year-old Stephen Luciano Romero of San Jose, California. The grandmother of a 6-year-old Stephen, killed during the shooting at the Gilroy Garlic Festival, says she wants justice for her grandson. Maribel Romero tells ABC 7 News she was at home when they got a call from someone who said the boy who was at the event with his mother and other grandmother was shot.
Saying that my grandson got shot and his mom and his grandmother, his other grandmother. So we run out looking for them. My son is the first one who got notified where they were, and I went from hospital to hospital looking for him, but my son told me that he was over here. We came over, but when I got here, he was already dead. So far I know that the shooter got my daughter-in-law through her stomach and her hand. I guess it passed through the side of the stomach to the baby's back and her hand, something like that. I'm not quite really sure on that. It has to be someone really sick, because she's a kid. And that's a family event, person or the other person, and there's justice. I want justice for my grandson.
To New York now, a popular community festival was coming to a close when gunfire erupted in a Brooklyn neighborhood, leaving one man dead, another person in critical condition, and 10 others wounded. Authorities said they're looking for 2 shooters they believe were involved. The 56th annual Old Timers Day in Brooklyn was winding down on Saturday, and the final R&B band of the night was leading the crowd in a rousing rendition of Family Reunion by the OJs. The beloved days-long community event in the town was drawing to a close under a clear summer sky when gunshots rang out, and it sent thousands running for cover. 12 people were hit, 7 men and 5 women between the ages of 21 and 55. A 38-year-old man died from a bullet wound to the head. The police commissioner, James P. O'Neill, asked police who had been at the playground to send any videos from before, during, or after the shooting. Police said a gun was found at the scene, but investigators had not determined if it was used in the shooting.
Hong Kong police fired tear gas and rubber bullets Saturday at protesters holding a banned rally against suspected triad gangs who beat up pro-democracy demonstrators near the Chinese border last weekend, tipping the finance hub further into chaos.
In the 21st of July, the triad is attacking the people in the MTR station. But the police, same as today, they close all the gates. They don't respond to any call. That's why today we ask them to come out to answer our help, because you can see they are closing the gate again. They don't respond to any citizen at all. Of course, if the triad attack us again, and you can see the police station is closed. So there's no police.
Riot police used tear gas throughout the afternoon and evening in Yanlong, a town close to the border, after tense standoffs with protesters, some of whom were throwing projectiles and had surrounded the police van. Police authorities said 9 people were injured, with 5 in a serious condition as rubber bullets were fired later in the evening to disperse the remaining protesters. Public anger has been raging since last Sunday when a gang of men in white t-shirts armed with poles and batons set upon anti-government protesters and bystanders in Yanlong Station. Police have been heavily criticized for being too slow to respond to Sunday's violence, fueling accusations of collusion or turning a blind eye to the pro-government mob, allegations the force has denied.
Meanwhile, China on Monday threw its backing behind Hong Kong's beleaguered leader and police, saying violent protesters must be swiftly punished following another weekend of running street battles in the financial hub. Now, what began as a mass display of opposition to an extradition bill 2 months ago has morphed into a wider pro-democracy movement that has thrown down the most significant challenge to Beijing's authorities since the former British colony returned to Chinese rule in 1997. While China has issued increasingly shrill condemnations of the protests in the last 2 weeks, it has largely left the city's pro-Beijing administration to deal with the situation. Protesters had braced for a potential backlash from Beijing after China's top policy body on Hong Kong affairs called a rare press briefing on Monday. But the cabinet-level Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office merely reiterated its condemnation of the protests and Beijing's strong support for Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam and the city's police force, which has been accused of using excessive force against protesters.
香港近期时代的演变，特别是少数激进分子实施的暴力活动，已经严重破坏了香港繁荣稳定的大局，严重挑战了香港法治和社会秩序，严重威胁到香港市民的生命和财产安全，也严重触碰了“一国两制”的底线，绝对不能容忍。中央政府 坚决支持林郑月娥行政长官带领特区政府依法施政，坚决支持香港警方严正执法，坚决支持特区政府有关部门和司法机构依法惩治犯罪分子，坚决支持爱国爱港人士捍卫香港法治的行动。
Last week, the Defense Ministry pointed to a Hong Kong law under which the Chinese army could be deployed if city authorities requested support to maintain public order. When asked under which preconditions the military could be deployed, Mr. Yang referred to the city's basic law without elaborating. Pro-democracy protesters fought a second consecutive day of running battles with police on Sunday evening in a well-heeled residential district of Hong Kong in some of the most sustained scenes of violence witnessed so far. The clashes took place close to the liaison office, which represents Beijing in the semi-autonomous territory. In a statement early Monday, police said 49 radical protesters had been arrested for a variety of offenses on Sunday, saying the crowds were getting increasingly violent. Police said protesters hurled bricks, bottles, paint bombs, corrosive liquids, and used a crossbow to fire metal ball bearings. Bows and arrows were also later recovered from the scene, according to the force. Sustained volleys of tear gas and rubber bullets arched through the air to clear the streets, with elite units known as Raptor squads arresting those left behind, almost all of them young men and women. Medical authorities early Monday said 16 people were injured. Sunday's violence came a day after police fired tear gas and rubber bullets at protesters holding a banned rally against suspected pro-government triad gangs in a town near the border with mainland China. Police arrested 13 people that day, while hospital authorities said 24 people were hurt too seriously. The gangs had beaten up pro-democracy demonstrators there the previous weekend, with at least 45 people taken to hospital. Despite facing unprecedented levels of public anger and millions taking to the streets, the city's leadership have appeared unable or unwilling to end the chaos. The demonstrations were triggered by a bill now suspended that would have allowed extraditions to mainland China, but have evolved into a call for wider democratic reforms and a halt to eroding freedoms.
U.S. Intelligence Chief Dan Coats will leave office on August 15. President Donald Trump announced on Sunday the latest high-profile departure from his turnover-plagued administration. President Trump tweeted that he plans to nominate Representative John Ratcliffe of Texas, who serves on the House Intelligence, Judiciary, and Homeland Security Committees, as the new Director of National Intelligence. President Trump has repeatedly clashed with the U.S. intelligence chiefs, including Coats, over issues ranging from Russian interference in the 2016 election to North Korean denuclearization and Iran. Coats' departure will be the latest in a long series of exits by top Trump administration officials, including Defense Secretary Jim Mattis, Homeland Security Chief Christian Nielsen, Chief of Staff John Kelly, and top diplomat Rex Tillerson.
Staying in the U.S., President Trump countered the latest charges that he is racist and promoting a hate agenda to win re-election, following his attacks on a prominent black lawmaker in his constituency. In a series of tweets, President Trump on Saturday took aim at Democratic Representative Elijah Cummings, a high-profile critic of his administration whose district covers much of the majority black city of Baltimore, Maryland, whose murder rate makes it one of the most violent cities in the country. Representative Elijah Cummings has been a brutal bully, shouting and screaming at the great men and women of Border Patrol about conditions at the southern border, when actually his Baltimore district is far worse and more dangerous. His district is considered the worst in the USA. As proven last week during a congressional tour, the border is clean, efficient, well-run, just very crowded. Cummings district is a disgusting rat and rodent-infested mess. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous, filthy place. Why is so much money sent to the Elijah Cummings district when it is considered the worst one and most dangerous anywhere in the United States? No human being would want to live there. Where is all the money going? How much is stolen? Investigate this corrupt mess immediately. Now, after calling Cummings district a rat and rodent-infested mess where no one would choose to live, President Trump insisted on Sunday that he was just telling things as they are. After calling Cummings district a rat and rodent-infested mess where no one would choose to live, he insisted that he was just telling things as they were. He said there is nothing wrong with bringing out the very obvious fact that Congressman Elijah Cummings has done a very poor job for his district in the city of Baltimore, he said, without providing evidence to support his claim. Now, later in the day, he reiterated his criticism of the congressman, calling him racist and saying this radical oversight is a joke, a reference to Cummings' leadership of the House Oversight Committee, which has launched investigations into Trump administration policies. The president's comments capped a weekend of attacks on Cummings, the powerful chairman of the House Oversight and Reform Committee, and marked his latest rhetorical shot against non-white lawmakers, exacerbating racial tensions. 2 weeks ago, President Trump caused a nationwide uproar with racist tweets directed at 4 Democratic congresswomen of color.
French police are searching for gunmen who killed 3 people in southern France, including an innocent bystander in a shooting believed to be drug gang related.
Ah ben, j'ai jamais vu ça. Ici, c'est une ville assez calme. Il n'y a jamais de soucis de cet ordre-là. Là, c'est le choc pour toute la commune. les commerçants aussi, tout le monde a été sous le choc hier soir quand on a entendu ça. Et là, voilà, en plus il y a des victimes, des touristes à déplorer, c'est affreux, quoi. Là c'est le choc, absolument.
The shootout also claimed the life of a woman, 57, who was a passenger on a scooter and is believed to be an innocent victim caught in the crossfire. A police source said the profile of the two male victims, aged 29 and 30, known to police over past drug cases, backed up the idea that the shooting was a settling of accounts between gangs. The two gunmen escaped the scene. The female victim was on a scooter driven by her husband, 58, who was wounded and taken to hospital. Local media said they were regular visitors to the area.
An attack this weekend by Boko Haram fighters on a funeral in northeast Nigeria has left 65 people dead, almost triple the initial toll, according to a local official. Dozens more bodies were discovered following the assault Saturday by gunmen on a village close to the regional capital, Maiduguri.
During the burial, they attacked them at the graveyard. Immediately they killed 21. So later, when the remaining people heard about it, then they went after them. They still killed them. That makes the total up to 65.
Mr. Bulame said more than 20 people died in the initial attack on a funeral gathering. Dozens more were killed as they tried to chase after the jihadists. He said he thought the latest attack was in retaliation for the killing 2 weeks ago of 11 Boko Haram fighters by local residents when the jihadists approached their village. The residents also captured 10 automatic rifles. Boko Haram fighters have repeatedly attacked the surrounding Nganzai district. In September last year, the group killed 8 people and stole livestock in 2 villages in the area after residents tried to stop them from taking their animals. Boko Haram has waged a decade-long campaign of violence in northeast Nigeria that has killed around 27,000 people and displaced more than 2 million.
In Nigeria, attacks by the militant Islamist movement Boko Haram have forced millions to flee their homes. The continuous stream of displaced people filled the camps and the slums of Maiduguri, an unstable situation that has already dragged on for a decade. Here's more.
Around 12,000 displaced people live in this makeshift camp, which opened just 4 months ago in Maiduguri Stadium in the northeast of Nigeria. Since the start of the year, over 100,000 people have been forced from their homes, fleeing the violence of the jihadist group Boko Haram. Fatima fled 5 years ago with her husband and 2 children.
Now I'm in God's hands. If peace is restored one day and I'm told I can go back home, I'll go back to my village immediately. But time goes by and the situation isn't changing, so there's no way I can go home.
Over the past 10 years, Boko Haram's attacks have displaced nearly 2 million people. Despite international aid, supplies are scarce and shelters precarious. As the conflict shows no sign of ending, those living at the camp must find work to survive. Modu has become a woodcutter. Selling wood, he earns $1 to $3 a day.
Hunger is the biggest problem. We're starving. We just need people to give us something to eat. I work so that I can eat, but I'm still hungry.
The government is encouraging people to return home as soon as the security situation permits. Ibrahim tried to go back home last year. After 3 months there, he had to come back to Maiduguri.
I just thought that my life is in risk and my children. Because no quality education, no health services, no, it's too much. So I have to come back.
While he continues to wait for the situation to improve, he's living in his friend's room.
This is where we live. So with your wife and? With my wife and 4 children. I'm just like I'm living in a cage. Yeah, because you are sharing a room with family of 6. It's not easy.
Around Maiduguri, the Boko Haram attacks continue and the death toll keeps rising. 10 years of violence has left 27,000 people dead.
In other news, Israel and the United States have successfully carried out tests of a ballistic missile interceptor that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said provides protection against potential threats from Iran. Let's take a look.
היום יש לישראל את היכולת לפעול נגד טילים בליסטיים שישוגרו נגדנו מאיראן ומכל מקום אחר. זהו הישג אדיר לביטחון ישראל, וידעו כל אויבינו, גם בהגנה וגם בהתקפה, שאנחנו נוכל להם. אני רוצה להעביר כאן ש...
Eagle News International will be right back.
Sa gitna ng dilim, ako ang mata sa sahing papawid. Ako ang dilat sa tuwing ang bayan ko ay tulog ng mahimbing. Ang aming buhay, handang ialay para sa bayan. Kayo'y handang maglingkuran.
Join us in celebrating the 72nd anniversary of the Philippine Air Force.
Everyone, Nicole Tongo here, greeting you from all the way here at Niagara Falls in Canada. Make sure to watch Digital Nas every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. only on Net 25. Again, I am Nicole Tongo, always one with 25.
Agila Balita, Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 7:30 hanggang alas 8 ng umaga.
The Philippines aim to increase its food exports to the world's largest market as the country will participate in the China International Import Expo in November. Vice Consul Mario Tani of the Philippine Trade and Investment Center in Shanghai told the Philippine news agency that 50 Filipino companies will exhibit their products in China's largest buying event. The second CIIE will take place in National Exhibition and Convention Center in Shanghai from November 5 to 10 this year. CIIE only hosts foreign enterprises that are seeking to sell to the Chinese market, and no Chinese manufacturers are allowed to take part in the expo. As CIIE is gaining huge interests from enterprises eyeing to expand their market in China, Chinese Foreign Minister Zhongshan announced early this year that the expo area will be expanded by 30,000 square meters from the 300,000 square meter exhibition area in 2018.
In other news, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said Brexit was a massive economic opportunity, but had been treated under his predecessor Theresa May as an impending adverse weather event. In a speech in Manchester where he pledged new investment in leave voting areas, Mr. Johnson promised to step up negotiations on post-Brexit trade deals and set up free ports to boost the economy.
And I think over the last 3 years we've tended to treat Brexit like some impending adverse weather event. But I campaigned to leave the EU because I believe it's a chance to change the direction of the UK and make us the best country in the world to live. Leaving the EU is a massive economic opportunity to do things we've not been allowed to do for decades, to rid ourselves of some bureaucratic red tape, to create jobs, to untangle the creativity and innovation for which Britain is famous.
Asked about the prospect of Brexit negotiations, Johnson said he was willing to engage with EU partners, but only if the backstop clause was removed from the current divorce agreement struck by Mrs. May. The backstop seeks to ensure a free-flowing post-Brexit border between British Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland and an EU member state in all eventualities. However, European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker has reiterated to Britain's new Prime Minister that the withdrawal agreement is the best and only agreement possible.
Yesterday, President Juncker spoke to Prime Minister Boris Johnson on the phone. President Juncker listened to what Prime Minister Johnson had to say and reiterated the EU's position that the withdrawal agreement is the best and only agreement possible in line with the European Council guidelines.
The French Minister of Economy, Bruno Le Maire, has responded to Donald Trump after the U.S. president threatened substantial retaliation over Paris targeting top U.S. tech companies. The French finance minister said, "We are not willing to target American companies. We are simply prepared to tax digital activities fairly and efficiently."
Our American friends should not understand the decision taken by France to have its own national taxation of digital activities as any willingness of targeting the American companies. That's not the case. We are not willing to target the American companies. We are just willing to have a fair and efficient taxation of digital activities.
France's parliament passed a law making it the first major economy to impose a tax on digital giants, defying a probe ordered by an angry U.S. President Donald Trump that could trigger reprisal tariffs. Google, Apple, and Facebook have their European headquarters in Ireland, where they pay some of the EU's lowest corporate tax rates, despite earning the bulk of their European revenues in Britain, France, and Germany. Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be
Welcome back. Malacanang said President Duterte had a productive visit to the earthquake-hit province of Batanes last Sunday. He visited Batanes province where a series of earthquakes early Saturday killed at least 8 people and hurt about 60 more. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo said the president also gave 3 marching orders. The first is to ensure that supply lines in the province are working so residents do not get hungry. President Duterte ordered the release also of 40 million pesos for the construction of a new hospital in Itbayat. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana and Transportation Secretary Tugade were directed to extend the runways of the airports in Basco and Itbayat as well. Meanwhile, Cabinet Secretary Carlo Alexei Nograles said that the government had started mobilizing resources to help the victims in Itbayat town. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council said that the residents of Batanes have continuously experienced aftershocks following the twin quakes that hit the province over the weekend. According to NDRRMC's report, a total of 230 aftershocks have been recorded since the earthquake that hit the province, particularly the town of Itbayat on Sunday morning or Saturday morning. NDRRMC also said that 911 families or 2,963 persons were affected by the quake. The quakes damaged 15 houses, 2 schools, 2 health facilities, according to the report.
The death toll in a landslide which buried a village in southwest China rose to 42, state broadcaster CCTV said, with 9 still missing days after the disaster struck. Search and rescue operations at the site in Suicheng County, Guizhou province, where a thick torrent of mud buried 22 houses in the landslide on Tuesday, were stopped on Sunday night, the provincial government said. The government has earmarked 30 million yuan, or that's $4.35 million US dollars, for search and rescue efforts in the province, Xinhua reported, as well as the relocation of victims. Landslides are a frequent danger in rural and mountainous parts in China, particularly after heavy rain, and the country has suffered severe flooding this year. In August 2017, at least 30 people were killed in 2 separate landslides in the same rural province of Guizhou.
India's wild tiger population has increased by more than 30% in the last 4 years. That is according to a new census released on Monday, and it raised hopes for the survival of the endangered species. The census found 2,967 tigers in the wild across the country, up from 2,226 4 years ago, in what Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed as a historic achievement. The massive surveys are conducted every 4 years, with the latest census spanning 15 months and using 26,000 camera traps that took almost 350,000 images across known tiger habitats, according to Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar. Images that showed the big cats were analyzed using computer programs to individually identify each creature. Wildlife and forestry officials also scoured 380,000 square kilometers of terrain. In 1900, more than 100,000 tigers were estimated to roam the planet, but that fell to a record low of 3,200 globally in 2010. Now that year, India and 12 other countries with tiger populations signed an agreement to double their big cat numbers by 2022. Population numbers in the nation have risen steadily since falling to its lowest record figure of 1,411 in 2006. Authorities across Asia are waging a major battle against poachers who often sell tiger body parts to the lucrative traditional Chinese medicine market, as well as other man-made problems such as habitat loss.
"55 pieces of rhino horn were found encased in plaster at an airport in the Vietnamese capital," authorities said, as the country tries to crack down on sophisticated wildlife smuggling routes. The communist state is both a consumption hub and popular transit point for the multi-billion-dollar trade in animal parts. The 125-kilogram, or that's 275-pound Hull of rhino horn discovered at Hanoi's Noi Bai airport on Thursday was found after the carefully disguised shipment aroused suspicion. Images of the bust shown the large rhino horns and smaller pieces sitting on a table and police using rods to break the cast apart. It took half a day to break them open, a security source told AFP. It was not immediately clear which African country the shipment originated from. The parts were found the same day police arrested a key wildlife trafficking suspect and 2 other men after 7 frozen tiger carcasses were discovered in their vehicle in a parking lot. The busts follow a record seizure in Singapore a week ago of nearly 9 tons of ivory and a huge stash of pangolin scales destined for Vietnam. Elephant tusks, pangolins, tiger parts, and rhino horn are all sold on the black market in Vietnam, while the rest is smuggled onto China. But rhino horn is especially prized, with 1 kilogram fetching up to $60,000. It is in high demand in Vietnam, where some believe that it can help cure diseases and hangovers when ground into powder.
In other environment news, massive swarms of grasshoppers descended on the Las Vegas Strip, and it startled tourists and residents as they passed through town on their northbound migration. Let's take a look.
With global warming, gardeners at Lyon's botanical gardens are having to completely rethink their planting scheme and are looking for vegetation that will be able to adapt to the climate of the next 20 to 30 years. Here's more.
Donc aujourd'hui, c'est question du remplacement de près de 200 arbres qui étaient présents sur le parc, qui faisaient partie de la composition d'origine du parc et pour lesquels on ne va pas pouvoir remplacer avec la même essence puisqu'elle n'est plus adaptée aux conditions climatiques.
Alors, le changement climatique va effectivement nous amener à planter de nouvelles espèces qui viennent d'autres continents, mais elle va aussi éliminer des espèces qu'on a l'habitude de voir et qui sont aujourd'hui de moins en moins adaptées au climat lyonnais.
And the news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back.
Tungkulin na MTRCV ang mag-provide na
hanggang alas 8 ng umaga.
The Cine Bata Video Festival is calling for submission of entries. With this year's theme, United in Love. If you are a Filipino video content creator, show us your best work for a chance to represent the Philippines. deadline of submission is on August 30, 2019. For inquiries, visit or contact the following.
In sports, Egan Bernal's victory on Sunday marked the 7th Tour de France success in 8 editions for the team, once called Sky and now known as Ineos, highlighting the outfit, clinical command of cycling's biggest event. Let's take a look.
Espero lo disfruten mucho porque es nuestro primer Tour de Francia. La verdad que yo estoy contento, pero siento que no es solo mío, es de Colombia, tenemos mucha historia.
On est vraiment tous très fiers de la victoire, pas que des Camerval, on est fiers aussi de les autres cyclistes, Rigoberto, Nairo. Ils sont bien montrés un peu les bons côtés de la communauté colombienne et franchement on est tous très fiers de tout ce qu'ils ont fait, tout ce qu'ils ont reçu.
Southern Ontario, Canada celebrates 105th anniversary of the Iglesia ni Cristo or Church of Christ. Here's Rex Adam.
In celebration of the 105th anniversary of the Iglesia ni Cristo Church of Christ, the District of Southern Ontario has been devotedly preparing for their anniversary Thanksgiving Day and for the program, which will showcase talents and entertainment for their guests. Since the establishment of the church in July 27, 1914, every year their members from around the world commemorate its anniversary by way of their worship services. They dedicate themselves to God with a day of prayer and humility, and by giving thanks for God's providence to their lives. This year, In Center Stage Production is on Spotlight. A collaboration between the different districts across the globe has been launched months ago in order to prepare for this special celebration. Each district submitted a script for a one-act stage play appropriate for the occasion. The District of Southern Ontario actively participated by submitting a script as early as January of this year. They have committed time to audition for their parts. After the final casting, even with such busy schedule, they tediously rehearsed with the cast every week and devoted much effort in the planning and preparation to make sure they can mount a stage play that is suitable for this year's celebration. The play is entitled One Hope, written by Maria Arevalo and directed by Levi de Jesus. It is an original one-act play of unwavering faith, love and aspirations within the realm of possibilities. It presents a compelling narrative of people's lives whose paths were intertwined by the same calling and purpose. Here are some of the heartwarming experiences of the cast and crew.
The best experience I've had so far is, despite coming from dance only, I am able to act and actually have fun in acting. It was something I never really have done before until I joined this production.
The best experience I've gathered here is seeing brothers and sisters uniting in this church activity and seeing them use their passion in acting, singing, dancing, and using it to share our faith.
Just being a part of this for almost 3 years has been crazy, but now that this is a live play, it's a little bit more nerve-wracking, I guess, but I feel like I've gained a lot of confidence because I was able to experience this 2 years ago. It's because 2 years ago we had in cinema and that was behind the camera. Now it's not behind the camera, now there's an actual audience. So I think I'm pretty excited and I've gained confidence among my other brethren.
I think one of the best experiences working with all the members of the church who's part of this project is really interacting and collaborating with everybody. and also seeing them all having fun when we're doing our rehearsals, and then finally seeing the whole, production come together. It really, love to see all the unity that's happening in this, everyone all united and doing this project.
Indeed, this annual celebration is filled with warm greetings from different congregations and brethren across the district. Because of the many community-related projects launched over the years by the Iglesia ni Cristo here in Canada, public officials have acknowledged the humanitarian efforts they have offered to the communities. Here are some of the warm greetings and congratulatory messages. On behalf of all Edmontonians, I commend you for your efforts to serve and reach out to your community. Your recent Aid to Humanity program not only helped our city, but other cities across Canada as well. On behalf of the Government of Alberta, it is my pleasure to congratulate members of the Iglesia ni Cristo on the 105th anniversary of the Church. Here, as in the Philippines and around the world, Iglesia ni Cristo members have been an important part of their communities, growing in faith together and serving others. Best wishes as you celebrate these remarkable milestones. This event marks 105 years since Iglesia ni Cristo was founded and 10 years of devotional service of Executive Minister Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. For Eagle News Service, reporting from Southern Ontario, this is Rex Adam, your Canada Bureau.
Thank you, Rex. Meanwhile, in Edmonton City, cloudy skies and driving rain did not dampen the spirits of those celebrating the 105th anniversary of the Iglesia ni Cristo. Thomas I. Likeness reports.
Bad weather did not keep members of the Church of Christ from celebrating their church's 105th anniversary. People from several Edmonton congregations braved a severe thunderstorm warning and strong winds to attend a flag-raising ceremony at City Hall. Church of Christ minister Brother Paquito Abanez says members are not discouraged by rain, no matter how heavy it is.
Well, we are grateful for all the brethren who showed up, and it really shows how much they love to participate in the activities, especially the activities sent by the church administration.
That evening, members braved rain again, this time to view the city's high-level bridge. It was lit up in the church's colors of green, white, and red. The bridge has 60,000 LED bulbs installed with a programmable lighting system. The city recognizes major events and cultural celebrations with the lighting. July 27th was Iglesia ni Cristo, or Church of Christ Day. It was 105 years ago on July 27th that the church was registered with the Philippine government. That registration coincided with the outbreak of World War I. Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News, I'm one with 25.
Thank you, Thomas.
Happy 105th anniversary, guys. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr, also check out our boards and Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda, thanks for joining us.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles and we're one with 25.
Now in its 51st year, Eagle Broadcasting Corporation has held various child care and development programs. With the support of participating organizations and sponsors, EBC conducted the following activities. Sports clinic program wherein basketball coaches and players taught students the importance of discipline.
So if I say 3 claps, 2 claps, 1, 2, 3, 0.
Confidence.
Fire! Stance!
And teamwork. free haircut, free massage, feeding programs,